Hello and welcome back to the IB PodCAS. As you may know, we are inviting each of our guests based on one of the IB learner attributes. These attributes are inquirers, knowledgeable, thinkers, communicators, principled, open-minded, caring, risk-takers, balanced, and reflective. Last week, with our guest Mahedi, we explored the balanced attribute, focusing on her commitment and perseverance between her school, work, and social life. Today's guest has been chosen to represent the open-minded attribute. Open-mindedness refers to the willingness to learn new ideas and perspectives, and to have a change in perspective over what you think is possible. This is a crucial element in studying the IB, and we are glad to host a guest who is an amazing example of this attribute.
It's good to be here again with everyone. Today's guest is Marley. Marley received his IB diploma last year. Throughout his schooling, he has achieved some major awards, such as the ADF Future Innovators Award in 2021 and 2023. He also received the Top of Subject Award for Biology HL 2 years in a row, as well as the Top of Subject for Mathematics Applications and Interpretation Standard Level. In his free time, Marley is a keen and skilled photographer and regularly posts his photos on his Instagram, which you can find in the bio of this video. After the completion of the IB Diploma program, Marley is now at UT University studying a double bachelor's degree in biomedicine and science. At the age of 6, Marley found out he has a hearing impairment and throughout his schooling career had to combat this issue. Welcome, Marley.
Yo.
It's good to have you, Marley. We're very excited. Alrighty. Updates of the week. What's been going on?
Jess, I think you should go first.
I should go first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Our IAs. I think that's been a...
Yes. Okay, so we've had quite a few of our IAs due recently. So our group 4 sciences, so biology for me and Noah, and then physics for Charlie.
Yeah. How did that go for you, Charlie?
It went good. The biggest thing, especially as IB, is very particular about is the formatting and making sure it's 12 pages, it's font size 12, and you have the same font throughout, and it's just that like meticulous stuff, and you can't have tables going over the page. And I spent I just got home and spent a whole afternoon and evening on formatting my physics IA.
Yeah, the formatting is a very essential part of the IA. But, in like the very first episode we talked about with our IAs and Es, we picked topics that we're interested in. And I did have a couple late nights due to other extracurricular activities, staying up quite late to do that. But I didn't really mind it too much because I was enjoying what I was doing. And plus I also knew what I was doing due to my teacher. And Marley, I'm pretty sure you had the same biology teacher as well. But she was very helpful throughout that process for me. And I'm sure for you as well, Jess.
Yeah.
Yeah. Marley, when you did your IA, what was the process like for you? What did you...
Well, mine took forever to do because I decided to do a whole bunch of 30-meter long transects in the bush and then count individually every single plant in that 30-meter long transect. And they were a meter wide, and it drove me insane. And that took like 3 weeks to do, just the like practical part of it. But I will say one tip on formatting was to really stretch the margins out as much as you could.
I did that.
And
I did that.
Yeah.
It doubles the amount you can fit in there.
Yeah.
Like,
Do you remember how many words your IA was?
Nope.
Oh, mine was...
There was a few, like maybe, I don't know, roughly the word limit.
Yeah, mine was like 5,000.
Mine was
3,000,
just over 3,000.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it was the same, roughly.
But
It's crazy.
Yeah.
We're just writing mini EEs for our IAs.
Yeah, pretty much.
yeah. But again, did you enjoy... I know you said that you loved ecology. So
Yes.
was that something...
Yeah. I'm actually doing that for my... I'm majoring for that in my science bachelor.
Oh, nice.
Conservation and ecology. Just because out of all the options, it seems like the easiest one.
Fair enough.
Yeah, but it's interesting because they actually take you out to like rainforests and stuff to, do ecology stuff.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, like, I think the IA, for me, it showed me, like, what hard work can do, because my draft was not good. Like, I'm going to be... Let me tell you honest, it was not good, and there was a lot of stuff that I had to fix up, and my session with my biology teacher going through what I need to fix up was, I don't know, quite overwhelming, and I didn't think I'd be able to do it, but through some hard work, I was able to produce something I was happy with, and that I think would do well as well.
Well, I think one thing was just kind of chipping away at it and not leaving it to the last minute. Marley, did you?
Nope.
What was your method to that?
I would not touch it for weeks at a time. Then I'd spend 3 hours on it one afternoon, then not touch it again, and then another 3 hours. Just in bulk like that. And that way, my subconscious mind can just keep working on it, and all of a sudden I can just smash it out. That's the right way to go about things.
Is it
Right,
that?
thank you.
Yeah. So, is that how you like to do things in one big go?
Yeah, that's right.
Would you advise it to other people, or
Yes.
you would?
Yeah, I would. It's just
Is
too monotonous. Like, it becomes a chore if you just do a little bit all the time.
Oh,
over
yeah.
and over again. But, that way it's just something you can build up to. You can just keep thinking about it, and all of a sudden just knock it out the park. Because that way you keep that train of thought going as well, rather than stopping and starting constantly.
Yeah, that's actually, I did not think of it like that. Like, my way of doing things is quite different to you. I like to do stop and start, but that's a good way of thinking to do things, is to do it in a big chunk. Because for me, that stopping and starting can hinder my train of thought as well. So, yeah. Another thing that we did recently was our talk exhibition. That one got handed in. How do we all think that went?
Hopefully it went okay. I'm quite positive. I really liked my objects that I chose.
Yeah, again, you're personally interested in them.
Yeah.
Charlie?
Yeah, that was actually the mistake I made, and I basically just picked the first thing I thought of,
Yeah.
and it showed in my depth of understanding of the topic, and eventually got to the point where I had to rewrite the whole thing multiple times because I wasn't doing what the talk exhibition criteria wanted me to do.
Yeah.
But because I put so much effort into it, I think I definitely passed, and I'm hoping I'm getting a decent grade.
Yeah. What was your train of thought when you had to rewrite it a couple of times?
It was just basically rereading it out loud because I'm not very good at formatting sentences, stuff like that, and getting my ideas across in concise manner.
Yeah, because it's the word limit, hey?
Yeah, talk exhibition
950 words?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Oh, I remember it was very little.
Yeah.
Object as well. Yeah.
It's not a lot of words to get your point across, so you really have to hone in. And our talk teacher said basically you have to relate to the question with every single sentence.
Yeah. Marley, how did your
Oh,
talk exhibition go?
I think I was pretty happy with it. Although I remember I spent more hours making it look good than actually writing it, to be honest.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was nice, beautiful cyberpunk colours with black background and then neon pink and cyan. And probably should have put more focus into the actual writing of it, to be honest. But at that stage, we're just trying to avoid thinking about that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Well, for me, I like talk because it makes me think deeply about things that I usually wouldn't. And the objects that I picked, all sort of interconnected. I'd say they were all based off the environment, and I enjoyed doing that, analyzing all those sort of things and thinking what counts for a good justification for a claim. That was my prompt. And I found that the way that knowledge is perceived and taken in is sort of similar across all those different type of things as well as I also use objects that were such as articles, videos, and I use a tweet as well. So I think that's it's good because you get to use all these type of all those type of objects.
Yeah, I used a tweet, I used a book, and then more of a vague, more of a concept for my third one.
Yeah, 'cause I think it's good. What do you remember? What you? Yeah, I know we're.
You're bringing it back to me now. It's all coming back.
Yeah.
I remember one of my objects was based on photography, and I think it was something to do with the truth, and it was just how you can make the same person look completely different with something as basic as a different lens on a camera, because a wider aperture lens and a lower aperture lens can make your face look wider or slimmer, and so it was how with the iPhone it actually makes your face look narrower, and it's not a real perception of what you look like.
Whoa.
Wow. The more you know.
The more you know.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Now we are also preparing for our IO, for our language ab initios. For me, that's French.
For me and Charlie, it's Japanese.
Yeah. And how's that going for you guys?
We're doing a lot of practice in class. Our teacher is making sure that we're working towards it, and even if we can't complete it all in like the 15 minutes time frame, that we're at least still practicing our vocab, practicing our cultural links, which
Yeah.
is we're slowly stepping towards doing the full thing, which I think is a really good way of going about it.
Yeah, I'm put like a lot of effort into this already, and it's still 4 weeks away, which seemed like a long time, but for me it's not.
Yeah.
As discussed in one of our early episodes, French isn't my strongest subject, and I got a lot to work on. And right now I'm trying to find vocab that correlates to each theme. And Marley, I know French also wasn't your strongest subject either, but
Yeah.
the IO, how did you prepare for that?
Screaming and crying. No, I'm kidding. That one, yeah, it was rough, I'll be honest. It didn't go very well, but it was mostly a lot of practice with the teacher. And we had 2 lessons a week. It's sometimes 1, because classes would happen on a public holiday all the time, or the teacher wouldn't be there. So, you'd say like there's 8 weeks left, but that's actually like 6 lessons, which is really not many at all.
Not many,
That's
yeah.
under 6 hours of practice, pretty much, unless you do it outside of class, which, I did a little bit of, but yeah, it was rough.
Yeah, and can you tell everyone how you had to do your listening exam with French as well, and like having to listen to your teacher, like the examiner, while doing your IO, and like how that was like with your hearing?
Yeah, well, because of the hearing loss, listening to like speakers and stuff, just in general, it's kind of hard to actually make out what people are saying in English. So in another language, that would be hell. So thankfully, yeah, I was able to have someone read it out for me, and they would. It was mostly lip reading as they sat there across from me talking. And I would, even then, obviously, because French has such soft sounds in all the words, and hearing loss, it makes it pretty hard to distinguish those. The lip reading was definitely helped me a lot, but that to say, I was still capped by my French skill.
Yeah.
It was about some ICT computer technology stuff, so that was beyond my understanding. But no, other than that, though, it was pretty good.
Yeah, I think I find that like astonishing that you had to sit there and lip read and try and process what the examiner said in French and then say it back in French all at the same time.
Yeah.
That's just crazy.
That's crazy. That process of thinking, I don't think we would
Yeah.
be able to do. It's just crazy.
Yeah, for the way I listen in another languages, I don't even like look at the examiner, to be honest. I just let it flow over me and pick out the words that I understand and try and from that gather what they're trying to ask and then answer from that. But having to lip read that.
Yeah, pretty much. I understand what you mean, the flow of it. For me, I'm actually like grabbing every single sound and like trying to piece them together like Lego. Like, okay, this sound and that sound, that makes this word, and then
Yes. Also upcoming for Jess, Charlie, and myself, we have an upcoming jazz performance in the city under the Story Bridge, which is this big bridge in Brisbane, and it's at the Jazz Club, which is a highly recognised jazz venue, and so we're very honoured to be able to play and perform there.
We've been going there for quite a few years now. I think this might be our 4th year that our school band's gone.
I think it's going to be quite emotional for like the last time we play there, because that's all. That's
got a lot of memories.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, how's the preparation for that? Because you two both got solos.
Yes. I've got more instrumental, I think, and I think we've each got a solo in an instrumental song.
Yeah.
And then you've got one in a vocals.
The vocal. Yeah.
But yeah, with preparation, it is like an exam. Like you treat it as an exam, you will get the same nerves as you do in an exam. But all it falls down on is you and how much effort you put in outside of school. Because no matter how much you practice in band, you can kind of hide behind the rest of the band. But if you're soloing or if you're the lead,
you're just by yourself.
You cannot. You have to. You don't have to excel, but you just have to make the least amount of mistakes.
Yeah, and you also want to be like highly like memorable as well. You want to be remembered.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
I want to do something cool.
I hope you know, Charlie, that... Oh, yeah, there's your name. I can say that, can't I? I hope you know, Charlie, that if you mess mess up even once, everyone will be laughing at you inside their head.
Thanks, mate. I appreciate that. But you gotta use that.
Gotta
'cause
keep you
people-
humble.
Yeah, people will do that no matter what. But you gotta. You just. For me, I use that as fuel.
Yeah,
As
same.
as a driver, being like, well, I'm gonna make sure they don't laugh at me,
Yeah.
and then that won't be a problem. You know.
For me, like, failure was a big scary thing for me. And when I did fail one time, I think I just shut myself off and didn't want to try anything. And starting this course, especially with CAS and stuff, it's made me open up and try new things. And we're to a point where I'm not scared of failure. And I think that has improved my mindset for the whole of like schooling and my future and everything like that. I don't think failure is a bad thing. I think failure is a way to learn. Even in the subjects, as like I said earlier, my biology, IA, my draft was very, very bad. And I had to come back from that. And I think there's a sense of like reward when you fail and you get back up and do it again. So,
Yep.
Yeah. Marley, has there ever been a time where like you failed and like you've come back up?
Every single assignment in IB, the best thing you can do is fail, because like I know they say this to you at the time, you don't really think of it, but the teachers are the best resource you have. Like being able to fail and having a teacher tell you how to fix it and talking to them in class, and like it's just like it's better than doing a half-assed like somewhat decent attempt to begin with. I think failing and then improving from that's better, because you can understand what you did wrong and you know better what to do right.
Yeah, exactly. So next we're going to move to the news of the week. As part of the IB program, we are taught to be international learners and to learn about what is occurring around the world, and with that, to acknowledge and learn people's different perspectives on global events. So it is essential that we talk about the important news of the week as IB students. Charlie, take it away.
Okay, so one that's a bit more, the impact has been in an Australian context, but has been acknowledged as a global issue, is there, specifically in Melbourne, but also in Brisbane and the major cities of Australia, there has been protests on domestic violence, and there's been people marching in the streets with signs, and they're just protesting some very recent deaths at the hands of domestic violence. And it's increased recently in the last couple of years, and everyone's bringing awareness to the issue because it is a prevalent issue, and they are advocating their perspective, and they're doing what they know that they can do, which is protesting in the streets
and bringing it to everyone's attention as well.
Yep.
100%. And it's what's interesting is that it's such a big issue that it's not even just contained to Australia, that it is also a global issue.
A global issue, yeah.
And it does start with just that one person, because if you don't believe you can make a difference, then that's not the right mindset to have, because it does take a bunch of people saying, no, I can make a difference, and then the next thing you know, you have 10,000 people on the street protesting against that issue.
Yeah, and like as you said, it's it's an issue that's present in society. It's been present for ages, and it's only now where it's being brought up more and more. To me, this also astonishes me that like there's people in households where you're meant to feel safe and comforted by your partner, but instead you're in a household where you're not safe and you're not comforted by your partner. And I find that upsetting. I find that upsetting that people don't have that sense of comfort. And I'm glad that this issue's being brought into the attention of the Australian Parliament as well through these protests, and finding a way to mitigate this problem.
Yeah, because they're the ones that have that power. Obviously, as individuals, when we combine, we obviously have that power. But what it comes down to is the people that have power over the whole country, what they can do to help. And I think the perspective of the people that are protesting have been like, this has been an issue for longer than we as individuals have been alive, gone worse, despite all the we got the access of information on the issue has dramatically increased. The awareness of it is dramatically increased, yet we still have that problem. So it doesn't come, it can't come from us. We have to look elsewhere from like their perspective, and they've gone to protest to the government and the parliament. They're like, look, this is an issue. You have the power to fix it. Fix it.
Yeah, exactly. Jess, your news.
Yeah. All right. So my news, I was looking at the, I guess, liquidation and shutdown of two major airlines that fly through Australia, which is Air Vanuatu and Bonza, which I guess it sort of goes through travel between countries, restricting access. Both of these airlines were considered low-cost, budget-friendly flights, so a lot of families who otherwise wouldn't be able to pay for a lot of the higher class airlines, I guess like Qantas or Virgin Airlines, they might be more restricted with seeing family or being able to get back to family due to emergencies and stuff. So, yeah, that was kind of what I was looking at.
Nice. Well, mine is an article that I found, and I'm sure it's been everywhere. The article is titled, "More than 100,000 flee Rafah as Israel steps up strike, says UN." So, more than 100,000 people have fled Rafah after Israel intensified its bombardment. UN officials have said, in the largest movement of population in Gaza for many months. This also, I find this even like really, really upsetting as well. That again, someone's home is unsafe and having to move away and to somewhere where they're not even sure where they're moving to. Again, I'm very fortunate to live in a country and in a nation where I have safe housing and I live in a safe household. And I try, as an IB student, look at other people's perspectives, and putting myself in the perspective of someone who has to flee the home is quite upsetting. But also, they don't really have a choice for their own safety. They have to.
And there's a lot of residents of Palestine have been moving backwards and forwards, moving around the whole state, trying to find safe housing or safe shelter, and it's almost like a mouse in a mousetrap sort of situation where it's only getting closer and they're stuck.
Yeah. It says in the article here, the numbers are expected to rise with deep concern among aid officials. This is just upsetting, and I'm sad that this actually happens in our world. And again, we have to acknowledge that it does and try and bring change. Obviously, there's not much we can do, but I know that around Brisbane, there's a few protests about the whole Gaza Strip. And the issue is global. Everyone's aware of it, and I think all nations are trying to make a change, which is great to see. But more than 100,000 flee their homes is.
There's a lot of conversation about it, and going backwards and forwards and going, was this right? Was this wrong? Who's at fault here? And I think the one thing to just remember is that genocide is never okay, and it's never will be okay, and never will be an answer. Even though both sides may have issues with each other, there's no excuse for
innocent people.
It doesn't even make sense, in my opinion, as military tactics like bombing civilian-only locations. Like, if you want to invade somewhere, wouldn't you just take out all the military targets and strip them of their military?
It's unethical, in my opinion.
Yeah, you're just bombing people who have no effect on the outcome of the war anyway. You know?
War's unethical in itself, but that's if you're going forward with war, that's the unethical way to go
well
about
said,
it.
Jess.
You can be sort of, although it's not respectful, you can be respectful about it in a way and not hurt, because they don't, like you said, Marley, they don't gain anything from it. So it's purely for the purpose of harming your opponent.
Harming and power is shown as like a power.
Yeah.
It is a war crime, isn't it?
Yeah.
I reckon.
It'd be up
Probably
there.
shouldn't be doing war crimes.
Definitely not. Alrighty, now in our next segment, we're gonna ask Molly some questions about the IB and his journey, and specifically about being open-minded. Jess, do you want to take this away?
Yeah, sure. Right. So what was your first decision on joining the IB diploma, and what made you choose it as your pathway?
I just figured it would, be good to keep my options open. Like, honestly, I didn't know until this year what I was going to be doing after school. So I just figured that IB would give me the best route for whatever, thing I chose to do. And, just seemed like a good little challenge.
So you knew you wanted to go to university.
Yeah, I knew I wanted to go to uni. And so, IB just seemed like the best course for that. And, again, it was just, I like a challenge.
Another question. What did the IB teach you about yourself, or how you learn?
Yeah, well, I'd say IB. I think the thing that taught me the most about this general ways to go about life would be theory of knowledge. And I think I actually spoke about this in my IB graduation speech. But it's just being able to just recognize and consider other perspectives, and that there are multiple variations of the truth. And also recognizing like media bias, like these articles that have just been read out in the news. Even then, you can see particular words that have been chosen in order to convey a certain meaning that
Yeah, definitely.
a certain opinion. Like, just then it was like Israel's constant bombardment. Like, that's obviously anti-Israel, pro-Palestine. Someone that was pro-Palestine, pro-Israel would have said, Israel's sustained military progression.
Yeah.
Choice of words. And I'm able to, like, thanks to theory of knowledge and IB, recognize that stuff in media and see when there's a spin being put on things.
Yeah, it's definitely made me more aware of those things, especially when now when I look at articles, and especially with the EE, when you pick a reference and like a website or an article to use, we have been taught to find out who created it, such as the author or the organization that created it, and what their perspective is on that particular thing. And that was quite interesting. Like we did an example on one of the websites I thought would be reliable as, but it was actually like a organization that was against a particular race of people, and it looked completely
Legitimate.
Ethical, yeah.
yeah,
It's fine.
Legitimate.
yeah, and then it wasn't when you like dove into the meaning behind the organization. So yeah, that was one of the exemplars that our EE supervisors took us through. Alrighty. Why do you think it is important to be open-minded in the IB?
Well, for me, and this isn't something that, sort of clicked in my head, like late in the IB program or even afterwards, but like you just have to be open-minded with the process of things. Like, you kind of have to trust the process. Like, when it comes to IB specifically, you go through so much like monotonous work and the way that we go about studying or doing exams and assignments, and it's just like we're all Play-Doh, and that kind of stuff just shapes us into being, well thought out, critical thinkers, and getting a lot of work done and all that kind of stuff. And it just happens in an, I don't know, unorthodox. Like, you think, oh, it's so much like work. Why are we even learning about this? But it just gets your brain thinking in a certain way that you can then apply to other situations in your life that you might not make that connection.
I like you're saying we're like Play-Doh.
Yeah,
That's a
That's a quote right there.
that's
that's right.
oh, I'll remember that, because like you are being shaped. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So-
yeah.
In a good way though.
Yeah,
Kind
definitely.
of stuff, like, it's just the ways that you're learning stuff and the way that you solve problems. Like, it might be in a certain subject that you think, well, I'm never going to need this in my life, but it's the way that you use those problem-solving skills to solve other stuff in the rest of your life. I don't know.
Yeah, and like the problem-solving skills can be applied.
Yeah.
So, yeah, nice. Were there times where you found it hard to be open-minded in the IB?
Yeah, I'd say so. When it came to our timetabling, we were smushed in with your grade for a lot of our classes.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, and then that cut down our class time in half for most of our subjects. And then it was mostly just a lot of just admin-related things when it came to learning in the IB program. for those 2 years. Like we were the composite class of the grade above and then the grade below, and it just felt like our class was being reduced. And we're like, why is this happening to us? Like, why are we being punished? But I guess yes, you have to be open-minded and realize, well, it's just the way things. It's still the best possible outcome. There's obviously a lot of factors into play here that are, creating this outcome, and it's just how it is. Like sometimes in life, it might seem bad, but it's still the best.
Yeah, and like you said that you were with a grade below, and obviously learning the same content but at different times. Did you find it good to be able to teach them? Is that a way that you like to study? And 'cause I remember you taught me a couple of times in biology.
Oh yeah, I guess it does help consolidate my own knowledge a little bit. Repeating it back, because then I guess once it's like all the stages. You're taking it in, but once you actually know you can teach someone else, you've got that down pat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You never have to really look at it again.
Yeah, I think there's a saying like the best way to learn is to teach.
Yeah.
So
I'm sure that is the saying, Charlie.
You are just that saying, Marley.
Extending on that, what advice would you give to someone who is finding it hard to be open-minded?
If someone was having a hard time trying to be open-minded, I'd say you just gotta slow down and just have a look at everything that factors into your situation. Like what's going on from your perspective, but also just the perspectives of everyone else involved. Like sometimes it's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah. So like sort of changing your perspective on things.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like
And slowing it
to
down. Yeah.
Let go. Knowing when to let it rest.
Because I feel like the IB is all go, and sometimes you do get caught up with the workload, and you does get a bit speedy. I'd say, and you feel like you can't slow down, and you feel like when new opportunities come up, and when you do have to be open-minded and take new things on board, you kind of shut that off, and that probably more so hinders you more than it benefits you. And yeah, I like your idea of slowing it down.
Yep.
And changing your perspective on things, and yeah.
Especially just when things feel unfair, because that we had that feeling a bit when things are just like it just feels like everything's against us. Like you just gotta reconsider everything isn't actually against you. So you consider the other perspectives.
Yeah, well said. What advice would you give to someone who is starting IB?
I would say, and this is contradictory to what I did, but you need to get your time management down pat. You need to get your organisation and when you do things and how you do things just perfect. Because I even at the end of grade 12, I had horrible time management. I was playing games and barely ever studying, but geez, like you'll have a much better time if you actually study.
So do you feel like it did affect you negatively?
Maybe, but I pulled through in the end. I'm just kind of lucky like that.
Yeah, nice. I feel like for someone like me, I wouldn't be able to do that, and finding that my time management is getting a lot better nowadays from like the start of first year, from the start of grade 11 to now. The calendars and the whiteboards and all that sort of stuff I have at home to help keep me organised. And I feel I come into school feeling prepared, which I think is very, very important. And by me having good time management, I feel like I enjoy it more, and I know what I need to do. I don't sit down and study and go, what am I supposed to do? I know what I need to do as well.
Yeah, but have a system.
Well, that's the thing. You gotta have a system. You gotta know what time management is for you. If for you it's a joint calendar with your friends where you have all your exams up, that's the thing. Or if it's sticky notes, or if it's a diary or a to-do list, it's got to be something that you can relate to and be like, yeah, this is my system. When everything feels like it's all crumbling down, you got to go back to that system and be like, what do I need to do? And then it doesn't become easy, but a hell of a lot easier.
Yeah. Do you feel like the IB has changed you as a person?
Well, yes. Obviously, the IB has changed me as a person. Although I would say that I'm definitely more resilient than maybe the ATAR peers. I could definitely handle more stressful situations academically, taking on higher workload, and I guess working in less than ideal conditions and still getting all the work done. I would say that, I reckon I could just take it head on and just get it done, which I think a lot of maybe other people who didn't do the IB program and weren't violently conditioned might not be able to do.
Nice. Alrighty, we're going to move on to the object of the week. Charlie, would you like to take that away?
Okay, so the object is an article from Sky News, which is a national news program. And the title of this article is Northern Territory teen who won $1 million in a fishing competition promises to pay back the cars he stole. So this Northern Territory teen was a 19-year-old who made headlines from winning a $1 million fishing competition. And what happened is there was a competition where this particular barramundi had a tag on the tail to identify that particular fish, and the catcher of that fish had the prize of $1 million, and this teen won it. And because of how prestigious this competition was, got brought onto national television with an interview, and the host brought up Peter Stefanovic.
Yeah, Peter Stefanovic.
He brought up the teen's previous juvenile criminal record, where he stole two vehicles 3 years ago. And for people watching the news, you could see that the kid was very awkward and not in the... He was very surprised by that question, and it just brings up like why would he say something like that, and the motives surrounding that, and for people who aren't aware about Australian laws, that criminal records are not public. And
especially like minors.
Yeah.
Especially juvenile criminal records, and it's something that TV hosts shouldn't have done. And there's been a lot of drama surrounding him and the fact that he shouldn't have done it. And I think there's a question that relates to that, which is how
does the power influence the representation of knowledge? That's what we came up with for this question. That's what Charlie and I, when we first saw this object, that's what we came up with. Charlie, what do you think? How does power influence the representation of knowledge? Because obviously, the host does have power over that young. Was he Aboriginal as well?
Yes.
Yeah, that young Aboriginal boy. Especially on television as well, without him knowing. I think that's quite wrong, in my opinion. Jess?
It seems like a massive abuse of power, especially not only from like something that kid did years ago, but also that it probably wouldn't have happened if he was white as well. It's also like a bit of a power advantage. It probably wouldn't have been brought up if he was a more privileged kid, even if he did do all that stuff. It probably, but because like of his upbringing and because of who he is, the host thought it was okay, or must have thought that it was okay to bring that up.
Yeah.
Even though it's
Marley?
not.
Also, just completely unnecessary.
Yeah.
Like, this guy just wins a competition, gets $1 million. He's having the time of his life. He's just a happy little guy, and then all of a sudden, just randomly, jump scared with this question on an interview for no reason. And the fact that it would have actually taken like a hefty amount of research to get that information, because as you said, it's like
illegal.
Yeah.
It's illegal to have
lock and
that
key,
information.
whatnot. So yeah, it's just unnecessary,
It,
out of pocket. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. It relates back to what we were talking about with the Israel-Palestine, is that it's just the unnecessarily, like, it's unnecessary.
Yeah,
like
using their power and
doesn't abuse of power, and again, abuse of power of the powerful against the powerless. And
wow, a lot of power in that.
A lot of power, and it's that question relates to perspective in terms of that representation, because the article that I'm reading is from Sky News, and the incident happened with Sky News. And reading this article, it doesn't paint it in like, it uses a what was the word? The spin.
Yeah.
It spins it in a way that doesn't make it view as bad as it actually is. and then you read other articles from like ABC News, and it paints it in a lot more in a light that's a lot more than what it is, and it just the reporter's representation of the knowledge that he had was that it was bad, and instead what am I saying? Instead of trying to paint like he won a competition, and that's a great thing, and he's just bringing up that negative again for just no apparent reason, and using that negativity. But yeah, it's that perspective of painting him in a bad light when he just won something that should be good.
Yeah. Alrighty. Now this will come to the conclusion of our podcast. Jess, would you like to take this away?
Of course. I'd like to thank the guests for continuing to listen to our podcast. If you haven't already, please listen to our 2 previous podcasts, one with our guest Bahedi, and the first one an introduction of our hosts. And I'd also like to thank our guest Marley for coming to the
Thank
podcast
you, Marley.
today.
Thanks for
Thank
having
you, Marley.
us.
It's lovely to see you again.
Oh, it's a pleasure coming here. You know, you got me out of work early, so there's always that as well.
That's awesome. But now, what you said today, specifically about being open-minded, and how like your IB journey and with the hearing impairment as well was very motivational. And I hope all the listeners took something on board with this podcast. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you.
See ya.